What's going on, guys? Bellator 268 going down from Phoenix, Arizona. And what you're going to notice about this card is a lot of the fighters are from Arizona. However, not your typical squash match where you're bringing in the hometown favorites to win and excite the local crowd. It just seems like they used a local pool of talent to bring in and kind of get their A-side guys over. So going to fade a lot of these local fighters, so to speak. But still an interesting card nonetheless. 13 fights in total. I want to wait until weigh-ins came out so we can see, are these 13 fights actually going down? But just enough time to wait. Don't really want to miss the line. So let's break down these 13 fights quickly and then figure out what are the best pieces that we want to either use straight up and parlays for our cases, and then maybe parlay with some of the UFC picks on the Saturday night. So we'll jump right into things starting at the prelims. We've got Maria Henderson, who is the wife of Benson Henderson, taking on Cauley Santiago. Line opened up. It's like 5-1 Maria Henderson. Clearly there's a narrative that Bellator is trying to push here. And so far it's moving to about -600. So this is probably one of these spots you're going to want to jump on right away. Again, you got Maria Henderson. You're in Phoenix, okay? She's from the MMA lab. She's Benson Henderson's wife. Benson Henderson is going to be on the card. It makes a ton of sense to include someone like this on a prelim, right? And she's an amateur fighter. Bellator almost never uses amateur fighters. I can't even recall the last time they put an amateur fight on a Bellator show. Maybe like some of those, they were doing like this Xfinity like sprint series. They'd go to NASCAR events and have like 3 fights. Like it's possible they did amateur fights on those shows, but not here. So they know what they're doing. And in the case of Maria Henderson, you would think, geez, it's Benson's wife. Benson's at the tail end of his career. So she's obviously like getting into mixed martial arts. And you would be right, but she's only 29, 30 years old. So she is younger than Benson. She's been training jiu-jitsu for a long time. She's a good jiu-jitsu player. She's competed in jiu-jitsu tournaments, just no real hands-on MMA experience. Does make her official MMA debut 8 months ago at LFA 100, another amateur fight there. And what you do see is a southpaw stance, just like Benson Henderson, and loves to use that body kick from the southpaw stance as well, right? Mid-range body kick, moves fairly okay, strong in the clinch, although her wrestling didn't seem all that good. She is a jiu-jitsu player, as we talked about. However, in that fight, she has almost no success getting the fight to the ground. So she's forced to brawl a little bit. And again, you know, decent mechanics for someone who's never fought before, you know, decent striking for someone who wouldn't be considered a striker, but she's hittable. She's super hittable. And honestly, her and this Amanda Mitchell girl both exchange big shots. She ends up winning a unanimous decision. 2 judges gave her 29-28, probably lost the first round. Another judge gave her 30-27, thought she'd win all 3 rounds. She gets hit, you know, she's limited. So again, looking at that one fight that we can look at, we know she's got good jiu-jitsu. She was decent in the clinch, southpaw striker with the body kick. Wrestling wasn't up to snuff. The striking defense is definitely going to be a problem moving forward, but this is just a low-level amateur fight, so she should be okay. Questionable cardio, not going to say bad, not going to say good. She was tired by the end of this amateur fight. They are only three-minute rounds, but it's her first time in there, so like it's expected that you're going to be a little bit fatigued, especially because I went the distance. And heart, I'm going to say she's got some okay heart. Like whenever she's in a bad spot, her ring IQ kicks in. She gets to the clinch position. Even though she can't get the fight to the ground, she's smart enough to go to the clinch. And then at range, you know, good strike selection, just not comfortable first amateur fight. So buyer beware, you're paying 5-1, going up to 6-1 on a 1-0 amateur on the basis of she's married to a former UFC champion. So who'd they give her, right? Because we don't want to be jumping in all board if she's taking on a decent opponent, but she's not. Cauley Santiago, I actually couldn't find an age on her. She does seem a little bit older. She's wild and aggressive, man. She's 0-2 as an amateur, but got stopped. First amateur fight was in 2019. She got TKO'd in the second round. Last fight, you know, a couple months ago, again, TKO'd in the first round. Doesn't seem like her durability is very good, but she'll come at you. She'll swing these bombs. She'll close up the distance. Her problem is, you know, she also has absolutely no takedown defense and non-existent grappling. So whereas Henderson last time out struggled to get the fight to the ground, you could see that she did, in fact, want to get the fight to the ground, just was having issues getting it there. Against Cauley Santiago, shouldn't have those same issues. I mean, you can go back and watch that last fight of hers, and I mean, literally, she just swings a couple wild bombs right into the clinch. Her opponent just grabs her, peels up against the cage, and rips her to the ground. Once she's on the ground, she's a fish out of water, and then she starts to take ground and pound. Once she takes the ground and pound, she gets tired. When she gets tired, she rolls over and gives up the victory. So the one thing that I will admit, because I don't see anything out of Cauley Santiago, even if she comes forward, is that aggressor, lands some of those big shots. It doesn't look like Maria Henderson has a durability issue. She'll take those early punches, and then second and third round, Santiago's going to slow right down. Eventually, this fight hits the ground. When it does, Maria Henderson should walk all over. The one thing, and this is why I want to watch the weigh-ins, Cauley Santiago fought 2 months ago, okay? 2 months ago. Weighed in at 142.7 pounds. This fight 2 months later is scheduled at 115. Don't know if that's actually the case, but Seems crazy that Santiago plans on cutting 30 pounds in a 2-month period of time. But, if she comes on the scale at 115, even if she misses weight and she's big, that's all an advantage. You're taking on a grappler who's looking to get you down. So a big weight advantage would certainly help. Being the bigger fighter would certainly help. I just don't think she's got any back class. And I think that even if she's too big, too strong for the first round, her game's going to completely fall off the hinges in the second. So, I got to go with Maria Henderson. And I'm definitely jumped on that early line. It's going to continue to swell. And yeah, people are going to end up paying 7 or 8 to 1 on an amateur fighter. So probably jump on it while you can. Second fight up, Makhmed Berkhamov taking on Jaleel Willis. Berkhamov is currently a minus 175 favorite. Some lines got him at 180, 185. Come back on Jaleel Willis, 145. Yeah, about plus 145 across the board for Jaleel Willis. Going to go with the Russian here as well, and Berkhamov. My God, this guy, again, he has an issue, but let's focus on that after we talk about his skills, what he's got actually going good for him. So he's only 27 years old. He's not over the hill by any stretch of the imagination. Turned pro 2 days after his 19th birthday. So, I mean, he's a career mixed martial artist. The guy's been training since he was a young age. He's from a section of Russia that has been known to produce good combat sports athletes. He seems to be one of them. Currently on an 11-fight winning streak. Tapology will tell you he's on a 6-fight winning streak. It's a little bit misguiding. So this is not uncommon for Russian fighters, is that he starts his pro career. He goes something like he goes 5-1 as an amateur, so as a professional, and then starts taking amateur fights. And that's not uncommon for Russia, because what happens is they'll fight pro, and then there'll be like a combat sambo championship, or it'll be like, the top guys from this, and it's listed as an amateur competition because it's not like full rules mixed martial arts. But straight up, man, he lost a fight to Magomed Umalatov. Magomed Umalatov's currently 11-0 in the PFL tournament. Looks pretty good to win $1 million in the PFL tournament. Like, Umalatov's a beast. That's the kind of guys he was fighting as an amateur, and he lost those fights. But, I mean, he's got back class for days. Eventually, he links up with ACB. He beats Jesse Taylor. That's the first name guy, I suppose. He's beaten tough Russian competition, but Jesse Taylor, Ultimate Fighter veteran, tough champion. Could have won the Ultimate Fighter twice had he not kicked a limousine window out. But dude's a complete beast and a good grappler. He armbars him in the first round. Gives up the takedown, armbar, slick stuff. Brett Cooper, also in PFL. Guys have been a badass. 10-time Bellator veteran. Yeah, knocks him out 32 seconds into the second. Heavy-handed, big grappling. 11-fight winning streak, finishes like 9 of those 11 wins inside the distance. Then he starts getting banged up, right? So he's booked with Albert Tumanov, he pulls out. They rebook him 3 months later with Baslan Isayev, he pulls out. Both times due to his injury. They rebook him versus Albert Tumanov 7 months later, pulls out due to injury. He took 2 years off before he came back and fought Ciro Rodriguez. Then he took another 2 years off before he's coming into this spot. He did have a fight booked with Herman Torrado 6 months ago in Bellator, but he missed weight. So he's fought once in the last 4 years, none in the last 2. He was supposed to fight 6 months ago, but he botched his weight cut, and his opponent was like, I'm not taking this. And now he's got to remake weight again. Don't know if he's been dealing with injuries. Definitely been dealing with the layoff. And he's a finishing machine. Yet in that last fight with Ciro Rodriguez, he looks good, but not really in any position to put him away. The thing is that he's just so well-rounded. Southpaw stance, good striking. He'll wait a little bit. Sometimes he seems hesitant, but when he lets his hands go and his punches, he will throw in combination. Good kick, strong wrestling game, offensive wrestling, solid, takes you to the ground, trying to grind on you, has a very, very advanced grappling skill set. And again, looking at the notes, one thing that I loved about him is he has a very similar skill set to Gegard Mousasi. They move in a similar fashion. They strike in a similar fashion. They seem lackadaisical at times, but he just seems so in control of his emotions and the tempo of the fight. I would reckon he probably has very high ring IQ. His wrestling could be a little more refined. The technique could be a little bit better, but he's strong in the clinch, so he just eventually throws these opponents to the ground. And once he gets on top, he makes good decisions. So am I worried about the layoff? Of course. Am I worried about the weight cut miss? Of course. But outside of that, definitely an advanced skill set. Jaleel Willis, meanwhile, he poses a problem to any opponent. And that problem is that he could just spam clinch up against the cage. That's it. But if he doesn't spam clinch against the cage, he's not going to win. I mean, he's another one of these guys, comes in, impressive 6-fight winning streak. He wrestled collegiately. He's got good wrestling. When you see him, he's definitely an athletic fighter. He moves well, but he strikes one-and-done striking. He doesn't throw combinations. He doesn't throw more than one. He doesn't even throw a 1-2. It'll either be an outside jab, an outside right hand, an outside kick, and that's it. One-done striking, one-done striking. But all he's trying to do is set up that level change, shoot that takedown. Once he shoots a takedown, maybe he gets it, but his top control is not great, and a lot of times the guys will get back up. It's his ability to just press you up against the cage and hold you there and stall you out for a little bit. that makes you dangerous because you can just win a boring fight against a lot of people. But if he chooses to fight in this spot against Makhmed Berkhamov, I think he's going to lose. Let's look at his last two, I suppose, his last three. So his last three back, he fights Vinicius de Jesus. He wins the LFA welterweight title. So you've got one guy's an LFA welterweight champion. The other guy is the ACB welterweight champion. Who's the advantage go to there? Obviously the ACB champ. But once Bellator signs him, he takes Mark Lemminger in his first fight, right? First round, nothing doing, keeps the fight standing, jabs him from the outside, wins the first round. Second round, creates a scramble. Lemminger takes his back, puts both hooks in, and that's it. Willis can't go anywhere. He actually gives up the second round, just clinging with Lemminger on his back. That's it. Third round, this is a 1-1 fight in a spot you were a 2-1 favorite in. And yes, cardio didn't look too bad. He now realizes, okay, let's not clinch up with this guy, uses the wrestling to keep the fight standing, and then he does have a slightly better striking acumen. But I don't know. One has to worry that if he gets into a fight with a better striker and he's not able to use that offensive wrestling, he's going to get in trouble. This Macon Mendonca fight is much of the same. He doesn't look comfortable standing at all, but what he do is he'll shoot a few takedowns. Mendonca gets right back up, and then Willis presses him against the cage. It's not a really good fight, to be honest with you. And to be honest with you, I don't want to disrespect him, but it's very mediocre. He's a good athlete. He's a good wrestler. It's mediocre after that. One and done striking, low volume, suspect grappling, decent cardio only because he doesn't push a pace. You're going to get tired if someone tries to go out there and grind with him. And yeah, mediocre fighter, best path to victory is wall install. People don't like to see the wall install, but if he wants to get a win, that's what he'll do. If he wants to get beat up at range, he'll stand with him. If he wants to get even if Berkhamov goes out and gets the takedown, Willis is in trouble. And even if Willis gets on top, lay and pray. That's the move, right? If you try to create distance to strike or you try to go for a submission, he's going to get back up, and it's not going to go in his favor. So, listen, I hate betting against wrestlers. Love that wrestling advantage. However, you got to go with a well-rounded skill set. It's not like Berkhamov can't wrestle. Guy can do it all. It's just Willis does have a key to victory in just making this a bog of a fight. I just don't think he's going to do it. So I got Berkhamov in the second fight as well. Jalon Bates versus Rafael Montini. Jalon Bates was a 5-1 favorite, but of course, money coming in like it always does. He's 650. He's 700. I see one line's got him at minus 800, and they'll probably all have him as minus 800 come fight time. Bellator knows exactly what they're doing, and that's give Jalon Bates winnable fights. He's only 24 years old. He's got an excellent frame for this division. Very long, very lengthy, uses it perfectly for leverage. He's out of American top team Portland, so he trains with like a bunch of hard-nosed grinders out of a lot of them are, all-American wrestlers out of the University of Oregon. A lot of guys are, nearby wrestlers, grinders, and he seems to be taking that, right? As an amateur, he's flawless. He's 9-0 as an amateur. Bellator scoops him up right away. That's the advantage for Bellator over the UFC. The UFC is always like, oh, well, win 5-6 fights, then get a contender series fight, then get a contract. Whereas Bellator will understand, geez, this guy looks legit. Let's just sign him now and build him up. And then we've already got him under contract. So Joe Soprino, he just runs rickshaw over him. He looks legit. This Jeffrey Glosner fight, domination to the max. He dominates him in every single position. Jeffrey Glosner actually did wrestle collegiately D2. And, oh my God, just completely owns him and chokes him out with a modified guillotine choke. Third fight, Cody Matthews. Cody Matthews, again, he's one of these guys that apparently is scrappy, and he's going to bring the fight to him. But Jalon Bates is just, massively in control. When he wants to fight to the ground, he seemingly has to fight to the ground. When it is on the ground, uses that length so effectively that it's very hard to get up. It's very hard to post. He's always pulling the arm out. He's always pulling the elbow out. He's always just grounding you. And, and his ability to reach around to different positions is just stuff that a lot of these fighters haven't dealt with. So he's just stuck to this point. He's stymied everybody he's fought. And, of course, Bellator debut, minus 790 favorite. Jeffrey Glosner, minus 750 favorite. Cody Matthews, a minus 455 favorite, and now he's going to come here against Rafael Montini as an 8-1 favorite. So why isn't Bellator just giving him a tougher fight? They're building him up, and this is just another fight en route to building him up. So he's looked fairly flawless, and what's Rafael Montini going to do to disrupt that? Well, Montini, 32-year-old fighter, he's out of fight-ready MMA in Arizona. So one, he is the local guy. Jalon Bates isn't. He's coming from Portland, Oregon. You've got a local guy here who's out of a mega camp. He's training with Henry Cejudo. He's training with the Pitbull brothers. He's training with, some of the best minds in the game. And Fight Ready is just one of those gyms you don't really want to bet against because they're all extremely well-rounded. They always come in very good shape, and they're upset specialists. A lot of the time they come in, this guy's probably going to lose. But once they're in shape, they've got a well-rounded skill set. They've got high ring IQ. They're coached properly. They do usually find a way to win. But in his case, I don't know. I'm not seeing it. Again, 32 years old. He starts his career off in Brazil, comes over stateside, and has had relatively no success. Lost his first fight in America. Then he got a no contest due to legal knee. He fought Mario Batista, who ended up going to the UFC, but he got handled. Doctor told him no more after 2 rounds. He fought Anthony Burchak, who fought in the UFC, and he got choked out in minute 34. And then his last time against this Marcus McGee, he starts off well, and then in the second round gets hit a few times, and he doesn't wear damage very well. So he's effectively on a 2-fight losing streak. He hasn't won a fight in 2.5 years. He operates at a relatively low level, and Jalon Bates is signed to Bellator as an 0-0 fight. This is his 4th fight with the promotion, and this is just regular business for him. Montini, meanwhile, gets a Bellator contract. Oh my God. God gave me a life-changing opportunity. Can't believe it. Because he knows UFC's not calling a guy like me. Bellator's not calling a guy like me. I'm on a 2-fight losing streak, fighting locally. Like, he fights on regular Arizona regional scene cards. And is having very limited success there. A call up to a bigger organization, that's crazy. Being seen live on YouTube with high production, that's crazy. But that's what he's being given. He's giving a Rudy moment. He's like Rocky Balboa moment, whereas Jalon Bates is the actual legitimate contender. So Montini's walking into bad territory. As far as his game goes, he seems like more of a grappler. Like, his submission seems to be his favorable position, but it's weak. First of all, he's been fighting sporadically since 2011, right? So in 10 fights in 10 years, there's not enough. He's competed between 125 and 135. He's not that big as a bantamweight. He's taking on a very big bantamweight. His takedown defense, bad. Grappling, okay at best. I'd list it as mediocre. Mediocre striking. Does not take damage well. And he's got the 2-fight losing streak. So I'll tell you how this one's going to go. Jalon Bates is going to walk in there, right? He's going to work the rhythm a little bit, try to find a bit of a range. And then Montini's going to come swinging on him. Bates is going to take him down. Takedown is going to be there. It is going to come. Hopefully it comes easy, but it's definitely going to come. And then once he's on the ground, he's going to grind on this guy. Montini might be able to survive the first round. He might be able to survive the 1.5. But he's going to start to tire. He's going to start to slow. And when both of those things happen, Bates is taking him out inside the distance, likely by submission. But it could be a TKO as well. Bates is not really a TKO guy, but if Montini's defending submissions and putting himself in bad position, just hammer away, right? Take what you can get. Take what you can get, Jalon Bates. But yeah, listen, he's a 7-1 favorite for a good reason. He looks the part. Lance Gibson versus Raymond Pena. Lance Gibson's currently, I believe, a minus 450 favorite. Comeback on Raymond Pena is a plus 340. So this one actually similar in a way to Jalil Wills versus Makhmud Berkhamov. Lance Gibson's better everywhere. Better everywhere. But wrestling is a very key component of MMA. And Raymond Pena happens to be a 3-time state champion out of Arizona. He is the local guy. He does currently train. Well, he currently coaches youth wrestling at, I believe, Sunnyside Wrestling Academy. Yeah, so, I mean, he's entrenched in the wrestling game. Like I mentioned, 3-time state champion. Didn't really have any collegiate wrestling success, but wrestling is his game. He even competes regularly in jiu-jitsu tournaments where it's mostly score a takedown and establish top control. He's not really going for a submission. He's not really looking to advance position. It's mostly just fend off what you've got. Stay on top. That's a dangerous way to win a fight. But if we believe, right, that if Raymond Pena comes out there and wins this fight, then mixed martial arts are a fraud, right? Because what we have here is Lance Gibson, who is an advanced martial artist. Started training at the age of 2. His father, Lance Gibson Sr., fought in the UFC, widely credited to be one of the early badasses, not only in Canada, but in general, no holds barred. He was trained at AMC Pancration with Matt Hume, one of the best minds in the game. This kid has been training his entire life. His father, currently married to Julia Budd, who's a former Strikeforce contender, former Bellator champion, currently still on the Bellator roster. She's in ridiculously good shape for a little bit older these days, but just extremely good shape. And Lance has the ability to just soak in all of this. He's been training his entire life. He's surrounded with some of the great minds. Quentin Rampage Jackson had an interest in him from a very young age because he worked with Lance Gibson and Julia Budd and all that. So it's all there for him to be a star. And when you see his skill set, he can be a star. Raymond Pena, meanwhile, can wrestle. You have a very good martial artist versus a wrestler. If this wrestler just happens to win, don't bother going to karate. Don't bother doing striking classes. Don't bother doing all this advanced training. Just wrestle, because that's what this is going to come down to. I can't see Lance Gibson losing to a one-dimensional style like that. Again, undefeated as an amateur, and Bellator signs him off with a 2-0 pro record. He did fight briefly in Canada, and nobody will here want to fight him. He's got an advanced skill set. He's the son of a legendary fighter and coach. you just don't really want to fight him. So Bellator brings him in. He looks like $1 million in his debut. He gets a first-round finish. He had 3 first-round finishes. Then they give him this Marcus Surin. So this is an excellent fight for him because Marcus Surin is 6-2. He's got a little more experience. He actually did wrestle D1. He was on the same college wrestling team as Frankie Edgar. A little bit older, but he's a mature fighter with a strong wrestling skill set, good athletic guy, 8 pro fights, and it goes the distance. And that's what we needed. First-round finishes are good, but where could Lance Gibson potentially have problems? Well, maybe if the fight extends. We haven't seen him outside of the first round. First round, oh shit, this guy looks good. Does everything right. Takedown defense looks spot on. He's strong in the clinch. Nice little short elbows. Good strike selection. Body kick, just so fast. And high ring IQ. He doesn't just clinch you and just knee to the thigh. He clinches you and he sets 3-4 knees to the thigh. Mobilizes you. Changes the angle. Looks good. The longer the fight goes, he starts to, I want to finish. I always get finishes. I want finishes. So he starts to overextend himself a little bit too much. And in the third round, he puts himself in a bad position. But he did it to himself, and he survives, and he wins the round, and that's such a good learning experience for a young fighter, man. Ooh, we went 3 rounds. Now we know we can go 3 rounds. Oh, we're taking a wrestler, Raymond Pena, 3-time state champion. This dude here was a D1 wrestler as well. Wrestled with Frankie Edgar. He can wrestle, stuff those shots. Made that a good fight. But then you learn, oh, you know what? I put myself in a bad position. Don't do that again. The next time I would have done this a little bit differently. Take all of that and apply it here. And Pena's going to try to take you down. Sure. So stuff those takedowns and batter him standing. And with Pena, he came into MMA with a wrestling skill set, but against LaRue Burley, gets snagged into a guillotine choke. Ah, shit, I shot my head a little bit too far out. The Kyle Stewart fight, he gets the takedown. Oh, armbar from bottom. Oof, embarrassing. Michel Inouye. Oh, heel hook. Minute 13 in the first round. Jacob McClintock. McClintock, my boy, but McClintock's coming off like a 5-year-long layoff. McClintock, second round armbar. So he's got 4 pro losses. All 4 pro losses are by submission. He can wrestle, but he can't grapple. He can take you down and then get submitted. Big deal. If you don't submit him, he's going to continue to take you down. He's going to continue to hold position. But with Lance Gibson, I mean, just grounding him for 2 of the 3 rounds is going to be very difficult. He does have a very strong jiu-jitsu game, and I think he should be able to create a scramble, get back up, or fish the submission. But more realistically, just stuff the takedown, batter this guy standing, end up on top, and submit him. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't really love betting against one-dimensional wrestlers just because, shit, there's always a path to victory if you're willing to just wrestle the entire time. But, yeah, I don't know, man. Lance Gibson, he'll eventually run into his match eventually, but Bellator is not really giving him his match eventually. And I know what people would say, well, geez, Pena's got 13 pro fights. This kid's only got 4 experience. But, yeah, I don't know, man. The way Lance Gibson grew up, like I'd have to say he's probably a way more experienced fighter than a 4-0 guy would seemingly be. So, anyways, I got Lance Gibson. We're just rolling big favorites at this point. The main card's going to get a little dicier. But anyways, Sumiko Inaba versus Randy Field. Again, you got Sumiko Inaba as a minus 450 favorite. Randy Field come back on plus 300. Again, I do see it. Only thing with Sumiko Inaba, just keep in mind, she's not like some ultra prospect who's coming in as a big favorite all the time. She's 30 years old. She made her Bellator debut just last year, and she was a minus 800 favorite in her Bellator debut. A lot of that's because she was a 6-1 amateur. She's 30 years old. I don't know. Just you shouldn't be paying big prices on like that for debuting fighters. Anyway, she gets the win in her debut and looked really good. Last fight against Christina Katsikas. Katsikas is a pretty good grappler. Routinely competes in grappling tournaments. So if Inaba got taken down, that would be the question mark. She did get taken down, but she's got an ability to get back up to her feet. When she does get back up to her feet, good punch selection, strong clinch for the women's MMA division. Backs up her opponents pretty good and lands punches and eventually does get a 3rd-round stoppage over Katsikas once Christina Katsikas just completely gassed out. She gets her in the 3rd round, but she's putting in money in the bank in the first 2 rounds. She does everything right. Nothing looks advanced. Nothing looks wow. Nothing looks like, oh, man, this is going to be a legitimate prospect. A few more fights down the road. It's just versus the level of competition she's been fighting. She's able to get the victory. Randy Field, meanwhile, very familiar with her. I've had a crush on this girl for like 5 years. I seen her fight an amateur fight 2016, and it was like, this girl's beautiful, man. Single mother, beautiful girl, hard worker. And just like, unfortunately, just wouldn't win. Well, I'd watch her all the time. She just never would win. She starts off her MMA career as an amateur 1-3. And the one win over Greta Deering, Greta Deering. I know people don't know who that is, but it's not a real win. So she would have been 0-3 by anybody else's standards. Beats an 0-3 opponent and then loses it again. So she's 1-4 and then loses her last amateur fight, a split decision. and decides I'm turning pro. Now, gorgeous girl. She currently is with Manny Alfaro. He's a fighter that splits time between Windsor and Michigan. He was a good fighter. He was not a good fighter. He was a developing fighter back in the day, but just never got over the hump. Took a couple mid-level fights and could not win them, and then kind of got a sour reputation in the community as like an asshole. So he doesn't really train a whole lot in Windsor anymore. He kind of splits his time back and forth across the border. And, you know, it's no disrespect to Randy Field. I just don't really think that she's really elevated her game all that much. But she is a good draw, especially in those border towns between the States and Canada. And that's where she does her best work. Windsor, Michigan, London, Ontario. So anyway, she turns pro. She takes on this Amanda Lovato. And yeah, okay, she's into it. Amanda Lovato is actually Ray Borg's wife. Her name is Amanda Borg now. But she hadn't fought in 5 years. Like Ray, she didn't show up in shape. And she got massively tired after the first round, or in the first round, and eventually gets TKO'd. Next fight against Melissa Karagiadis is 5-3. And I'll admit, Randy's got a grind in that fight. You know what I mean? Like, she puts a pace in the clinch. She's got her head right under the chin the whole time, stables her to the cage, keeps working. It's a good style. It's a good fight. You can see that Randy does have some skills. Unfortunately, it's just a low-level opponent. And so now she's taking this Inaba fight. Bellator signed her a year and a bit ago. She has not fought in 2 years. She's 31 years old now. She definitely has a life outside of cage fighting. And so Bellator signs, it's that huge moment. Oh, man, Bellator signed. This is a major mixed martial arts promotion. You're pumped up. You take the signing, and they give you Samika Inaba because they're not looking to give you an easy fight first time out. And so when I think about her skill set, she strikes a little bit wide and loopy. She might have a little bit better volume. She might have a little bit better pace than Inaba, but Inaba's going to be landing the more effective, cleaner striking blows. Randy Field's eventually not going to want to get hit anymore, so she's going to look to close the distance and get this thing up against the cage. And Inaba proved in her last fight against Katsikas that she's strong in the clinch. Even if she does get taken down, she's got an ability to get back up, and her cardio seemed like she's good to pace herself for 3 full rounds. So should she be a minus 500 favorite? Like, probably not. But I get it. She's probably just going to keep this fight standing, land the better effective blows. I strongly believe this thing is going 3 full rounds, and Inaba is going to control at least 2 of those 3 rounds. So would I want a dicey 29-28 on a 5-1 favorite? Like, no, absolutely not. But I do agree. No disrespect to Randy Field. That girl, my baby. I just don't think this is a very good debut opponent. So I'm going to have to pass or obviously go with the Sumiko Inaba fight. Javier Torres versus Gregory Millard. This is a throwback fight if I ever saw one. Javier Torres is currently in the slightly minus 105 versus Gregory Millard, who is minus 115. Javier Torres has been around the block, dude. I'm surprised he's still going. He was on Ultimate Fighter season 13, 10 years ago, right? He had a 2-0 record. He lost to Chris Cope. He lost to Chuck O'Neal. And then that was it. They released him. And he's been like actually plugging away fights since then. It's just never on anybody's radar. I'll look for the notable moments. He made a World Series of Fighting debut. Unfortunately, the doctor stopped it when he couldn't see out of his eye after 1 round against a 3-3 opponent. And then he would beat 2-5 guys. And he beats Julian Lane. Let me bang, bro. Julian Lane. That's a big one. Split decision, 2015. Career back on track. He would just never really capitalize on it. Bellator finally signed him in 2018. They gave him Naaman Gracie. He's getting brought in to lose, and he does submit in the second. They give him Andre Fiallo. Not a great fight, but loses a majority decision. And then he switches off MMA to grappling. He's done quite well. He is from the local Arizona area. That's probably a large reason why they've brought him back onto this card. But, I mean, he's been competing a lot in just regular jiu-jitsu tournaments and combat jiu-jitsu tournaments where you're allowed to open palm strike from top. So he is a mixed martial arts. He does like to fight. It's just he's not ever going to get over the hump of a mid-level MMA fighter. And as far as jiu-jitsu, he might not get over the hump as a mid-level jiu-jitsu fighter. He's just one of those guys that can do both. His last grappling fight shows a split decision win over Tim Welch. I'm not really sure what to think about that one. Tim Welch, on one hand, is Sean O'Malley's head coach and, a student of the game, big-time student of the game, trains out of the MMA lab. Was a decent fighter, not a good fighter, but has a high ring IQ. The other thing is Javier Torres also trains out of the MMA lab, so they're probably friends, and they've definitely trained together. And a split decision, I don't know, were they taking it seriously? I haven't actually been able to review the footage of it. It just seems like he's mostly doing jiu-jitsu. Gregory Millard, meanwhile, he's been around the block too. Mid-30s, he's an Arubian fighter. He fought on TKO back in the day in 2008. And I remember when he fought Tom Murphy. And then in Aruba, he lost to Rodney Wallace. So why are you fighting Rodney Wallace in Aruba? But again, since then, it's just been middling. He fights low-level guys, and he loses. He shows wins over Brandon Sailing, White Steel, the racist from Strikeforce, who ended up getting booted. He lost to Francois Ambang, standout Muay Thai fighter. He beat Evan Ned, who's like the Arubian god. Beat Shamir Garcia, top Michigan fighter for a while. Beat Michael Kuiper, UFC veteran. He's on a roll, but then, he just falls back. He'll normally fight in Aruba regional, guys 0-2 sometimes. That's how he gets the wins. He's a big, strong, menacing guy, likes to finish fights inside the distance, but his record's largely ballooned up on mid-level competition. His last fight against Julian Anglickas, props to him for lasting the full 3 rounds. Anglickas is a tough guy, but you did see that takedown defense seemed to be an issue for him. Anyways, this was a tough read, right? Because on one hand, if Javier Torres does get this fight to the ground, and I would expect him to get the fight to the ground, he's got the advantage. He's a better grappler. If the fight stays standing, Millard's going to have bigger power, bigger striking. Is he going to be able to consistently stuff the takedown? Can he tire out Javier Torres the later this fight goes? All good questions. That's why it's lined pretty well the same. Torres hasn't actually fought an MMA fight in over 2 years, whereas Greg Millard fought like a few months ago. So I don't know. I would go Javier Torres just because I prefer grappling over striking if it's going to be one-dimensional versus one-dimensional. But yeah, I mean, do you really want a ton of exposure in this fight? Probably not. Bobby Lee versus Nick Browne. Bobby Lee is he's the underdog. And Nick Browne's the -330 favorite. Bobby Lee is +260. I'm hitting a flat pass on this one all around. Nick Browne's definitely a talented fighter, 11-1. Yeah, I mean, he's training out of a pretty decent academy in Pennsylvania. Guy's got some decent skills, can wrestle, can grapple, can strike a little bit. He's 31 years old, so he's not one of these young fighters. He's kind of got more of a developed skill set coming into this fight. And he's currently on a 3-fight winning streak, although he's taking on a lot of those local, Utah guys. He recently just picked up a win over LFA for the vacant lightweight title. And the thing with LFA is people assume, you win the title, you get a UFC contract. Sometimes you're a good champion. Sometimes that LFA win gets you the Bellator contract. And that's what they did. They came in and they signed Nick Browne. I don't mind anything that this guy does. It's just with Bobby Lee's got the wrestling, and he can get to the grinding. I bet big against Bobby Lee against Soren back in his last fight. And to be honest, man, that was a greasy fight because Bobby Lee can wrestle. He's got legitimate wrestling. Not only that, he's a guy that shows in his career 5-0 as an amateur, starts his pro career 6-0. His losses are to Achilles Mata, decent. DeMarcus Jackson, okay. Macon Mendoka, he's fought in Bellator. He's fought in LFA. He's fought in Mike Hill, the Canadian veteran, was on The Ultimate Fighter. Joey Davis was like a standout collegiate wrestler, cousins with AJ McKee. And then Soren Back, who's a former Cage Warriors champion. So his level of competition is solid. He's fought in a lot of LFA champs. He's fought in a lot of Cage Warriors champions. He's fought a lot of Bellator veterans, mid-level guys, but, always testing himself in that wrestling. He's got decent cardio and ability to take the fight to the ground. Nick Browne probably stuffs the takedowns, probably outworks him, probably gets the win. It's just this is a card like, what, are all the favorites going to win? I mean, it's Bellator, so likely. Someone's going to shit in the apple pie. And I'm not really loving this Nick Browne-Bobby Lee fight, so I'm just going to personally hit a pass on that. If I had to put it lower on the ticket, I guess you go Nick Browne, but let me see weigh-ins. Give me another day to finalize the pick on that one. Very tentatively right now, I'm going to hit a pass. Sullivan Cauley versus Dion Clash. Again, this is another one you probably don't want overexposure to just because Judy's so young, and he's a big-ass favorite. But Sullivan Cauley is a -400 favorite. Dion Clash is a +290. So the story on Sullivan Cauley, because he's a big favorite, is he's like a protege under Ryan Bader. Guy wrestled at Arizona State, very solid wrestling acumen, comes over to MMA, supposed to be good. My issue is that even as an amateur, he's losing fights. Taking good amateur fights. His first loss, guy was 9-0. Second fight, the guy's 5-0-1. So a couple undefeated prospects as an amateur. But you come in with this big wrestling base. You're Ryan Bader's prodigy. You're training MMA. You can get these fights to the ground whenever you want. Probably shouldn't be losing amateur fights, but all good. Turns pro, Bellator wants him right away, and he scores a 28-second knockout. So he gets a first-round knockout over a 1-0 opponent, and now you're salivating. Oh, shit. He can wrestle. He's Ryan Bader's prodigy. Bader's on the card. Kid's from Arizona. Card's in Arizona. He's the full package. Just keep in mind he was losing amateur fights just a year and a half, 2 years ago. And you do see Bellator sign a ton of wrestlers, and not all of them are fighters. Some of them are just quite simply wrestlers. Not saying this kid falls into that category, but he's a 4-1. He's 1-0 as a pro. Let's not jump in all the way just yet. But with this Dion Clash, it's like he knows the routine. He was 2-4 as an amateur. Those losses, Jordan Johnson, eventually made it to the UFC, was a standout wrestler. Joe Gigliotti, eventually made it to the UFC, was a standout wrestler. This Ryder Newman guy knew how to wrestle. So he's already struggling against wrestlers, good ones, guys that eventually go on. But the path of victory is certainly there if you want to beat him. He has not fought in 2.5 years. That win was a Kimura, so he's maybe got a bit of a submission game. You can watch the Road to USA, M1 USA on Contender Series, and it is what it is. He picks up a decent little Kimura 2 minutes into the first round. Clearly, he does have a little bit of a grappling game to him, but honestly, I would think Sullivan Cauley gets the takedown and pound. Maybe he throws up a couple submissions here and there, but this kid's going to be ready to go. And again, yes, he is from Arizona, and yes, Ryan Bader is on the card. He's going to have friends and family there. He's going to be in shape and ready to go. And getting his Bellator debut out of the way, he should be slightly better this time around. Talking about amateur losses, that's the time to lose. Lose as an amateur because it don't go on your pro record. So I'm just hoping he's used that as building experience, learn when he had to do better. Didn't take easy amateur fights to begin with, so it's not like putzes were beating him. But he should have his way. But, I mean, you got a 1-0 guy against a 1-0 guy, and he's a 4-1 favorite. So a lot of it's narrative because it's who he knows. He knows Ryan Bader, and, I get it. I love me a good narrative. But I'd like to see a little bit more from the footage before I jumped all in. So what can you do? Albrektsson versus, obviously everyone's going to struggle with this name, Dolvitzan Yagshimuradov. So, I mean, we'll start with Yagshimuradov. So he was another ACB, ACA champion, and guy looked pretty good on the regional scene. He's got a tight little right hook that he likes to throw as a counterpunch. Got big power for sure, but largely floated under the radar. And when he signed with Bellator, I remember the whole narrative on it was like, well, Corey Anderson can't take a punch. And okay, fair enough. So this guy can punch. Corey Anderson can't take a punch. Sure, but can this guy wrestle? And everyone was like, I don't really know because no one really wrestles him. He normally just has his way with opponents over in Russia. So that's the unknown. And again, if it's going to be an unknown, you got one guy's a world-class wrestler, world-class grappler. One guy's got big power. You go with the wrestler. You go with the grappler because we've seen it time and time again. The fight generally hits the ground at some point, and you could be getting your ass kicked standing for a round and a half, and then the fight hits the ground. It's like a complete game changer. In Anderson's case, it's like he minded his P's and Q's. He stayed at bay. He waited. He shot those takedowns. This Yagshimuradov's takedown defense, not great. His cardio, not great. That counter right hand, yeah, sure, it's there. It's an MMA fight. Everybody's got a little counter punch. Everyone's got hands. Everyone's got an ability to knock you out. Corey Anderson, not really known for his ability to take a punch, but he's never really got hit in this fight. He would just take the fight down and grind him. And now, Corey Anderson, not really known for his ability to finish fights either, but once he took him down, dude, it was easy money. This guy had no game off his back, no ability to get back up, and just progressively got more tired, taking more damage until he eventually succumbed for it. Bad performance. I'm not sure what they were paying him, but I don't necessarily think that they were rushing to bring him back just yet. It was just a soft performance. Albrektsson, meanwhile, this is a tournament, right? So you need to win the fight to advance in the tournament. So he wins his fight against Victor Nemkov. Huge win, dude. Huge win. He's a plus 150 underdog. This kid can wrestle, man. Absolutely can wrestle. I mean, he fought in the Ryzen tournaments, and back then he was more of just a straight-up Swedish wrestler. Didn't really have much of the striking. Didn't really have much footwork. He would just go in, try to take the fights to the ground. But his losses are to Valentin Moldavsky, who's a standout in Bellator right now. The guy's an absolute stud. And Yuri Prochazka, who's an absolute stud in the UFC organization, probably going to get a title fight pretty soon. He actually lasted 9 minutes and 57 seconds in a straight 10-minute round versus Yuri Prochazka. So it's not like he's chinny. It's just that's elite-level fighting, right? And since then, he's been nearly flawless. He did lose to Phil Davis in an inside-the-distance fight, which is not great, but Phil Davis is one of those guys that would be able to match his wrestling level. And then when you give him guys that can't match his wrestling level, rinse and repeat, baby. The Victor Nemkov fight, he comes in as an underdog. Everybody likes Nemkov. I mean, he's got a very famous brother, and he's a strong Sambo Russian. Like, Albrektsson made him look foolish. Whenever he wanted the takedowns, they were there. And once he got the takedowns, he established dominating control on them. Then beyond that, he somehow gets out of his Bellator contract and takes a tune-up in Sweden just for the hell of it. Gives up. He's in a Bellator tournament. He's a Bellator contract. He takes a fight with a 10-10 guy in Sweden just for shits and gigs and mauls him. Now he's tight. Now he draws Julian Anglickas in this Bellator card, right? Anglickas is a stud. Looked awesome in his first round fight. Albrechtsson's a stud. Looked awesome in his first fight. This is a good fight. Then Anthony Johnson pulls out of the main event. Ooh, Julian Anglickas takes the fill-in call, so he's out. Carl Albrektsson, no opponent. Boom. Yagshimuradov. So Mudurov's coming in on short notice. His cardio wasn't really held to begin with. His takedown defense wasn't really held to begin with. Albrektson's tight, ready to go. Takedowns will be on full display. If he just takes this fight down once in the first, once in the second, he can run away in the third for all I care. He'll win this fight on the basis of his grappling. So I like Carl Albrektsson. He's actually one of these guys that's got a decent price tag, considering he's only minus 180, minus 175. Whereas like the other guys we like are 5-1 favorites. So is Albrektsson on the top ticket? No. But is he certainly on the third line at the very least? I think wrestling wins fights, and I actually like this kid. I think he's got a very promising future. As for Yagshimuradov, yeah, could knock him out, no doubt. It's MMA, but we're playing what's the most likely outcome in a one single fight. People always say like, well, dude, they fought 10 times. Dog, they didn't fight 10 times. They fought once. Who's more likely to win this one time? Give me Carl Albrektsson. Moving on, we've got started the main card. Henry Corrales versus Vladislav Parubchenko. This is pretty much an even money fight. Henry Corrales is a minus 120. Parubchenko is a plus 100. There was a time where Henry Corrales would probably be like a big bet on this card, but he looked so bad his last fight. I mean, it's very tough to overcome. Henry Corrales had his best of his abilities. He is good. He's another one of these guys out of fight-ready MMA. He's extremely well-rounded. He's 35 years old now, and I do believe he's starting to see the regression in his overall skill set, especially his durability, but this guy's been a junkyard dog since the get-go. His Bellator debut, they gave him Daniel Strauss, former world champion for the organization. His second fight for Bellator, they gave him Emmanuel Sanchez, two-time title challenger, absolute stud. He actually lost a split decision. His third fight, he's on 2 in the organization, by the way. Third fight, they give him Patricio Pitbull Freite, who's the former dual world champion, considered one of the GOATs by the promotion, one of the best to ever do it. Like, holy shit, man. Why would you do this to the poor guy? Then he draws Bellator, keeps him around, and he beats Cody Bollinger, who's on the Ultimate Fighter, World Series of Fighting vet, beats Noah Lahat, UFC veteran, beats Georgia Karahanyan, former title challenger, former World Series of Fighting champion, beats Andy Main, Ultimate Fighter not champion, but Ultimate Fighter veteran, and pretty strong guy. Then he draws Aaron Pico, comes in as a plus 400 underdog, and knocks Pico out in the first round. Henry Corrales is not someone you want to fuck with. Again, he's very well-rounded. He's got good striking, and he's a scrappy junkyard dog. He just loses 3 fights against the 3 best guys in the roster at that time, and then rallies off 5 straight wins. But he gets back into deep competition. Darren Caldwell, former champion for Bellator. Juan Archuleta, former champion for the organization. These are the best guys going. It's the Johnny Campbell fight. That's the outlier, right? So in the Johnny Campbell fight, it's actually Henry Corrales is a 9-1 favorite. Minus 900 favorite. Why? He's fought in the best guys in the organization. He's not an easy out. He don't go quietly. He's scrappy. And Johnny Campbell's 20 wins and 13 losses. Biz Nasty is a mediocre mid-level fighter at best. Henry Corrales came out looking okay, flashy, but once he got hit a few times, geez, the wheels fell off quick. And then he started slowing down. He started becoming very hittable. And Johnny Campbell is he's actually got a very deceiving 20-13 record because dude can hit. He hits hard, and he hurt Corrales bad. And when he hit him, he put him away. So Henry, that again, he's 35, and that was the first time it really looked like he was vulnerable in there. And that it wasn't a mismatch. It's like normally he would strive on guys like this, and he was a 9-1 favorite. Buyer beware. This Vladislav Parubchenko, meanwhile, he's seemingly very fraudulent. Yeah, he's got a sweet-looking record. What is he, 16-2, right? He wins his first 7 fights in a row, and he beats Sergey Morozov by rear naked choke. Morozov's in the UFC now, so that's a solid victory. And then his very next fight, he gets TKO'd by a mid-level journeyman in the first round. Fair. Goes on another great winning streak, but 0-0, 4-4, 6-3, 5-8, 6-2, 15-18, 18-6, 4-4, 6-6. It's a lot of the same regular Ukrainian regional scene guys. And some of them, oh, geez, well, you said one of them had an 18-6 record. Yeah, well, a lot of the guys with good records have ballooned up records like him. They fight a lot of 0-0 people. They fight a lot of 1-4 people. And especially Ukrainian fighters, you'll see a lot of them talented for sure. But to see a lot of them come up with these just whack records, like 17-1, 16-2, in this case, 16-2, 18-0. It's like, how do you accrue that much experience? But they can fight often against lower level guys. So he comes into Bellator with a 16-1 record. He matches up with John DeJesus, and he's a minus 750 favorite. And he looked like shit. John DeJesus is an upset specialist, keep in mind, but he just let himself get outworked. I mean, his volume wasn't there. His grappling wasn't there. John DeJesus just stayed on the outside and routinely beat him to the punch. It was a very bad performance. So he's actually taken off 14 months since then. and he's only 28 years old. It's not crazy to think that he made some slight improvements. It's not crazy to think he comes back a little bit better, but he looked like god-awful shit his last time out as a 750 favorite. Corrales looked like shit his last time out as a 9-1 favorite. The difference is Henry Corrales has looked good in the past. He has shown us an advanced skill set, a willingness to go out there and scrap. And even in that Johnny Campbell fight, dude, he got stung a few times, tried to fight through. Just couldn't fight through. This kid looked lost. It's like the first time somebody showed him something that he hadn't been used to seeing, he froze up. And Bellator obviously was not in a hurry to bring him back. So I'm going to go with Henry Corrales as the slight favorite. But, like, yeah, you're opening yourself up to a lot of intangibles because that one's probably got a fairly high variance. Benson Henderson versus Brent Primus. Benson Henderson is, I believe he is the slight favorite, -125, yeah. Brent Primus is a +100. So Benson's 37 years old, and I'm not going to say he's regressing because he does fight some elite level guys still, but he's just not the Benson of old, former UFC champion, was considered one of the best lightweights in divisional history. I like to shit on guys after the fact just because in hindsight it's never as nice as you remember, but even in the UFC, man, his fight with, I guess we'll start with, I thought he lost both Frank Yeager fights. They were close. That was his calling card, is he's the guy that beat Frank Yeager. His fight with Gilbert Melendez for the title, I thought he lost that one as well. And then he gets armbarred by Anthony Pettis in the very first round. So guy's a wrestler, guy's a grinder. He's smooth Benson Henderson, and yet he's barely squeaking out wins over actual wrestlers and grapplers and gets submitted by Anthony Pettis. His fight with Josh Thompson, total bullshit loss. He wins a split decision, but he robbed another guy. That's the third robbery he has. His fight with Rustam Habalov, he loses 2 of the first 3 rounds, catches him in the 4th, but 3-round fight he loses, and then he gets mauled by Rafael dos Anjos. And as far as the UFC goes, it was all downhill after that. He does show his win over Jorge Masvidal. He does show a couple wins here and there, but his game is, there's not a whole lot of substance behind his striking. It's a lot of flash. It's a lot of, pizzazz. He'll move. He'll lend the one left hand. He'll lend the body kick. He moves out of range. He's a smooth operator for sure. His wrestling, it was good back in the day, but it's not elite. And now you're seeing he doesn't have the ability to get these guys down whenever he wants. When he is on the ground, grappling's legit. He's spending a lot of time in later years developing his grappling, BJJ black belt, but again, the higher level of competition is having their way with them. Koreshkov was just way too big. You give him a pass there. Michael Chandler fight, split decision the first time. Oh, shit. Benson's in it. He looks good. But similar to a lot of Benson fights, they are close. They are split decisions. He doesn't always get them. The Patricky Pitbull fight. Should have won that fight for sure. But again, he loses a split decision. They match him up soft, he can win. They match him up a little bit tougher, not the case. So he takes the Michael Chandler rematch. And, oh, geez, he was competitive the last time. And, oh, geez, he's going to take Chandler into some deeper waters. But he gets chin-checked. He got chin-checked hard. That represented the first time he'd been knocked out since the Rafael dos Anjos fight, which was 7 years ago. So is it a durability thing? Probably not. It's Michael Chandler. He's a heavy hitter. But you do see where it's like he's not engaging quite as much. He's a little more reluctant. The next fight with Jason Jackson. Use your wrestling. Why would you not wrestle Jason Jackson? That's his kryptonite. And he's a long-rangey striker. He's going to stay to the outside. He's going to pick your face off with a jab. But again, Benson just doesn't have that ability to change gears anymore. And part of that's probably he's 37 years old. He's been to the highest peak of the mountain. He has not won a fight in over 2 years now. And he has not finished an opponent in 3 years when he beat Roger Huerta. Okay, so when was the last time he actually finished a legit opponent straight up? Brandon Thatch, 6 years ago. So he's going to have to grind. He's going to have to grind early and often. And in Brent Primus's case, I'm not a big Brent Primus fan, but Brent Primus can grapple. He's another guy that wrestled collegiately. He's a strong wrestler, and he's got good jiu-jitsu. His last time out against Islam Mammadov, thank God they scored that for Islam Mammadov. I was all over Mammadov. Well, I bet a wrestler, and he's going to take him down. He's going to control him. But the thing with Brent Primus is he's sneaky off his back. He'll go to rubber guard. He'll throw up some sneaky submissions. He'll do stuff off his back that sometimes can persuade judges. In this fight against Benson Henderson, don't be playing off your back, man. This guy's going to be more than comfortable getting on top of you, playing this guard game, evading submissions, and hopefully winning. But if it stays standing, who do you give the advantage to? I would say Benson Henderson, even though he's reluctant to strike for 15 minutes at a time now, and a lot of it's one shot at a time, 2 shots at a time. Flip side to that with Brent Primus, he always looks very uncomfortable standing. I don't think I would say that he's going to win any fight in a 15-minute striking battle. He needs to incorporate his grappling. If he scores a takedown of Benson Henderson, it's money in the bank. If he doesn't, Greasy. So what do you go with? Do you go with the back class of Benson Henderson? He's had the big fights. He is a former champion. Technically, Brent Primus is a former champion as well. But if you know, you know. Guy's not a former champion. You know, who do you go with? Bob's your uncle. And every card you see one of these old guys. Oh, Benson Henderson, I remember him. UFC veteran, former champion. Oh, that guy was the man. And it's like Father Time has caught up. They're not the same guy. And they usually shit in the apple pie, you know. Whether it be an Anthony Pettis, whether it be a Tyron Woodley, whether it be one of these people that you remember as being good. They're not good anymore. But it's in Arizona. They're right by the lab. They're in Phoenix. He's going to have his friends and family there. He has not won a fight in 2.5 years. He's definitely motivated to go out there and get the job done. It's another dicey 50-50 proposition. So who do you go with? I will take Benson Henderson, but shit, way low on my priorities for sure. Ryan Bader versus Corey Anderson. Corey Anderson is a minus 185 favorite, I believe. Currently minus 180 favorite. Ryan Bader come back plus 145, 155. Good fight, man. Really good fight. With Bader, I got to bring up the fact that he's 38 years old. And I know we just talked about Benson, right? Benson's 37. Seems like his best days might be behind him, you know, this and that. The difference is when you talk to Benson, he's just like, oh, man, I've been getting screwed in those fights. Like, I'm world class. Like, he's upset. He got snuffed for a title fight. And he's right. Why the hell is Patricky Pitbull Freite fighting Peter Queally and Benson Henderson's left out of the equation? Why is that, right? Doesn't make any sense. Benson Henderson's a former world champion. He's fought in some great fights for your promotion. It's your best guys. He's a big name opponent. Benson Henderson versus somebody is going to sell way more than Patricky, not Patricio, versus Peter Queally. Like, what the hell's going on here? So why snuff out Benson Henderson? He takes offense to it. So you see the fire there. You see the motivation. You see the confidence. The confidence suggests, hey, I'm better than these guys. I'm more established than these guys. I want the fight. So he goes out there and he wins over Brent Primus. He's setting himself up for a direct title challenger position. This is what he wants, right? Hasn't been able to capture Bellator gold so far. If he goes and he does it, Bellator champion, UFC champion, hell of a legacy. He's still got something in the tank. Wife's on the card. He's going to go look and push it. The difference here with Ryan Bader is his interviews. He's like, yeah, I'm starting to slow down. I'm not as good as I used to be, but I'll still win this fight. It's like, ooh. What was that first part? Did you say you're starting to slow down? Did you say you're not as good as you used to be? That's shit that can't be in a fighter's mind. Mind you, I'm not a fighter. But let me tell you, from all my interactions with fighters, you have to believe you're the best guy. You have to believe you're not slowing down. That's why a lot of these times it's like, why did they take that fight? Because they have to believe they can win that fight. Nobody's in here for a participation ribbon. Nobody. The worst thing ONE FC does is they give a trophy to the loser. KSW does it too. Who wants a loser trophy? Who goes home and is like, I finished second place in a fist fight? That's a loss. Nobody wants to finish second place in a fucking fist fight. Unfortunately, yeah, participation ribbons. And in Bader's case, I don't know. Like, he's still an ultra-talented guy, but he's starting to basically tell you, well, you know, he's making an excuse. Well, I'm not as phenomenal. That was the exact word. I'm not as phenomenal as I used to be. Well, that's a problem because Corey Anderson is getting better and better and better. And Corey Anderson will tell you that. Oh, I'm just starting to hit my stride, baby. I'm making money in Bellator. I'm going to be a world champion. He's used to be Corey 25-8, right? Not 24-7, 25-8. And now he's overdrive Anderson. Like, the guy's known for his work ethic in the gym, and he's been making a lot of improvements. Ever since he's been down with the crew and spent time with Sanford MMA, he's been spending time with, you know, Mark Henry and just an elite level of training. Everybody's remarking just great work ethic, good wrestling. Striking is definitely coming a long way, making improvements. His losses, if you want to give him a pass, you know, he's fought in former title challengers in the UFC. His last losses to Jan Blachowicz, who's the current light heavyweight champion of the world. And then since he came over to Bellator, he's been looking to incorporate that wrestling a lot more. The Melvin Manoff fight, why stand with Melvin would be a terrible idea. Take him down, grind him. I didn't think he looked good in that fight, but he took his time. That's what you need to do. Second round stoppage. The fight with Yagshimuradov last time out, same thing, you know. Bide your time, get the fight to the ground, grind, grapple, tire the guy out, get that ground and pound going, gets another TKO stoppage. This is unusual for Corey Anderson. Keep in mind, Anderson's first, he beat Jan Blachowicz in the UFC, by the way, so he's 1-1 against him, which is pretty dope. But his first, after the Ultimate Fighter, he won Justin Jones decision, Jan Blachowicz decision, Fabio Maldonado decision, Tom Lawler decision, Sean O'Connell was a ground and pound, so that's 1 TKO, 4 decisions. Cummings decision, beat Glover Teixeira, who's challenging for a title, by decision. Ilir Latifi, top Swedish wrestler, decision. Knocks out Johnny Walker, pretty crazy. Just headlined a UFC card. But what I'm saying is like 8 of his first 9 UFC wins are by decision. His now last 3 wins in MMA are inside the distance. You can see he's getting comfortable. You can see he's not just a boring decision wrestler anymore. He's looking to create damage when he gets these fights to the ground. And the fight with Johnny Walker, he never even shot a takedown. He just backed him up and lit him up with some tight hands and gets a knockout victory. Do I want to see him light up Ryan Bader with some tight boxing combinations? No. I'd like to see you grind on this guy, tire him out a little bit, and then take away his weapon, which is that big right hand, that big, strong brute strength. But Corey Anderson will work Ryan Bader. Ryan Bader will start to fatigue. That should be the difference maker. Yeah, he's got the power. Yeah, he could knock out Corey Anderson. We always talk about MMA. Sure, you can knock the guy out. But honestly, more often than not, he's going to just start getting tired. He's going to start getting worked over. His own offensive wrestling is not going to be there. Anderson's going to be moving a lot more. He's going to be sticking to the outside. He's going to be sticking that jab in his face. He's going to come over the top of the right, overhand right cross down the middle. The leg kicks are going to be there for Anderson. And then eventually Anderson needs to shoot in on the hips. Because even if you don't take him down, that's fine. In a chaotic wrestling scramble, Corey Anderson, who's got cardio for days, will be okay. Ryan Bader, who has cardio, but he's not known as an elite level cardio guy. He's not a gym rat, just, oh my God, guy never slows down. And he is 38 years old. So that grind is going to start to fatigue him. Once you fatigue him, less power on his punches, the speed advantage is going to be even more apparent. Stay to the outside, chip away at this guy. This is only it's a 5-round fight. Corey Anderson, yeah, for sure. If it's a 3-round fight, I actually would think, oh, well, durability could be a problem down the stretch. I mean, Ryan Bader's a live dog, but yeah, no, it's scheduled as a 5-round fight. Makes a ton of sense to me. Corey Anderson should be able to pull away in those later rounds at the very least. So give me Corey Anderson. Very similar to Carl Albrektsson. This is another one where he's like a -175, -180 favorite, as opposed to the 5-1, 6-1 favorites that we got normally littering this card. So a guy like that would add a ton of value into a parlay. We just got to hope that Corey Anderson doesn't put his chin up, because we have seen that before, but it's MMA, whatever. There's always going to be a worst case scenario. Finally, we got Vadim Nemkov versus Julius Anglickas in the main event. Nemkov pulling on some big money right now, and he's in -550. Come back on Julian Anglickas about 380, plus 380, that is. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I actually like Anglickas. I like what he brings to the table. He's a collegiate wrestling standout. Guy's made a lot of improvements in his overall game. His striking is getting a lot better, but it just seems like Vadim Nemkov, with his combat sambo background, is like kind of a kryptonite to a lot of the wrestlers. He has lost to Carl Albrektsson back in Ryzen, and it was Albrektsson using the wrestling. We're on Carl here, so don't you worry. We know how good Carl is. But that's in 2016. It's 5 years ago. And he was young, man. He's only 29 now. Back in 2016, he's a 24-year-old fighter fighting on a very big stage. But he's looking really good since then. And Felipe Lins, Bellator veteran, Lee McGeary, former champion, Phil Davis, former UFC standout, former Bellator champion, done it all. Rafael Carvalho, former Bellator champion, Ryan Bader, former Bellator champion, Phil Davis rematch. Winning them all. These guys are trying to take him down. But he's strong, man. He's got big, strong hips. The first time he fought Phil Davis, he wins a split. And a lot of people are like, oh, shit, robbery. So they run it back. And it's like, yeah, no, he's just a better fighter. And he's super hesitant in that rematch. I actually thought it was a terribly boring fight. But it's his first time in a 5-round situation. And pre-fight, he was going on record being like, I don't really know if I can fight 5 rounds. So being able to fight 5, the confidence you get out of that, knowing that you can push yourself a little bit, beating a really good guy like Phil Davis, all good stuff. They book him with Anthony Johnson. This is a title fight. Anthony Johnson's a former UFC star, a guy that fought for the world title. What you're seeing is this high-level shit. Everybody they fought has either won a world title or fought for a world title. It's all high-level shit. So that's a big fight against Anthony Johnson for a world title. Johnson pulls out. Anglickas is booked to fight Carl Albrektsson, which is going to be a sweet fight. And, Julius, would you pop up? So, yeah, he's going to have to get his wrestling going early. He's going to have to get it going often. But Nemkov can fight 5 rounds now. His takedown defense is solid enough that he's probably going to stop it. Anglickas has got some decent boxing as well. But you got to think with Nemkov, heavier strikes, good leg kicks, all around a better guy. I would not mark him up as a 5-1 favorite, and he's not going to be on my top ticket. But he's a big problem for these wrestlers. And for Julius, I can't even talk about how high I am on this kid. I actually really think he's a very talented fighter. But it's a tough call to be jumping from short notice. I'm not short notice. You're going to fight Carl Albrektsson on the card, but you go from fighting Carl Albrektsson, where it's like this is a wrestler versus wrestler matchup. You might think you're a better wrestler, prove it, to now taking on Vadim Nemkov. Yeah, you're probably a better wrestler, but it doesn't mean you're going to take him down. And if you don't take him down, you're going to have some problems on your hand. But, he got snuffed on the Contender Series. He choked out Carl Reed. They never gave him his contract. Jordan Young's actually just the worst fighter you've ever seen in your entire life. Like, please retire Jordan Young. That was so fucking embarrassing watching that guy. But then Alex Polizzi, Gregory Millard, wrestle. That is the key for him. He can wrestle. I just don't think that being a viable path against Nemkov, you're going to have to stand with them. And this is 25 minutes, not 15. So a wrestling heavy attack probably not going to yield all that much success. So anyways, that's what I'm going to leave you with. Let's just make some quick parlays real quick so that we don't, if you're watching the show, I appreciate people that watch it to the end. I got an influx of like new fans. You guys are OG fans who watches Bellator previews, like real fans of the sport and fans of mine. If you appreciate, want to listen to me talk for what, a fucking hour about Bellator, an hour. Crazy. Yeah, you're an OG fan. I got a big influx of new fans, and it's like they don't even watch the shit, man. They just wait until like the morning of, look, we're gonna put picks out. It's like, dude, I always put picks out, but I want to reward you for actually watching the show. So let's just put the picks together right now. That way you don't miss too much value. So I'm a parlay tab here. Okay, right off the get-go, you got to have Maria Henderson. Why? Because it's set up as a squash match. Call that Santiago, just not very good. Do you want a 5-1 favorite as a Actually, not even us focus top ticket. Let's just figure out our best ones. Jalen Bates, he's definitely a top ticket play. We're going to end up going with Berkhamov. Not necessarily top ticket guy just yet, but we will put Lance Gibson on that top ticket. Inaba is going to be very high up there. And then call Albrektsson and then. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, right off the get-go, your squash matches, right? Henderson, Bates, and Gibson, you're getting a minus 150, right? Pretty good considering it's 3 squash matches. We'll leave Berkhamov right now just because Jalil Wills could just spam into the clinch, right? But we're definitely going to put Inaba, right? That's going to give plus 104 right away. Now it's actually 4 squash matches, but you're getting plus money out of it. And then I think you go with, I'm probably going to go with Carl Albrektsson there. That gives me a plus 217. My next ticket down, then I can put Corey Anderson. Then I can put a Vadim Nemkov. And I can even put a Berkhamov on that. Those are just the ones I like. Plus 828. 8-1. Once you start to extend yourself a little bit, we're going to put fuck Javier Torres. Don't even put that fight altogether. Sullivan Cauley, there's a clear narrative. He's probably just going to wrestle this guy down. I'm not touching the Nick Browne fight for the time being, although that could change by tomorrow in the weigh-ins, which I have not yet seen at this point. Henry Corrales, I'll leave that off for the time being. I could get greasy with it, I suppose, and throw on Benson Henderson. And that's giving you a 20-1. You don't even have to – there's 13 fights on the card. You can skip out on the 3 that are dicey, stick to the 10. Benson Henderson would be your PRP on a 10-fight selection, and it's going to pay 20-1, man. And at the very least, let's just take some of those top 3 to 5 plays, put them with some of the UFC guys. So anyways, is there a potential apple pie shedder? Sure, happens all the time, but we've been on a pretty good streak that we either avoid the apple pie shedder, which has been great, or at the very least, kind of like Contender Series or the last UFC event, is just hit our top 2 tickets. There's an apple pie shedder. They're lower on the confidence level, and we walk away scot-free still. So this is a good-looking card. I think that there's a good chance to go out here and hit, cash some decent tickets. As far as props goes, I might tweet something out come Friday, but like, I got shit I gotta do. In fact, I gotta work a Lux Fighting. It's Lux Fight League. It's on Fight Pass. Anyways, I gotta go to Fight Network and work it tomorrow during the Bellator. Then there's UFC on Saturday, and then the Contender Series on Tuesday, and then I'm racing horses and buying a horse. If you're on the horse ownership, fucking close, man. Callisto Dream. That's gonna be the horse we end up coming home with. But anyways, it's just like business as usual, super busy, but no excuses, and certainly no excuses when it comes to fighting. So let's hit these, let's cash these, make some money, and of course, I'm always here to help you guys, and I can't help you if I give a bad selection. So hope for my sake we keep the train rolling, keep things tight, and make it another profitable one. Thanks for tuning in.